I'm Carla Reeves, and this is Differently, a podcast where we explore the ins and outs of what becomes possible when we're willing to think, do, and show up differently to the moments of our everyday lives. I'm standing in a big room, waiting for the event dinner to begin, arm in arm with my soon-to-be husband, clutching his arm tightly, a huge smile on my face, glancing adoringly at him in between conversations, in my own little bubble of newly engaged bliss. As I look around, I notice the other couples around us are all looking at us, and they aren't doing what we're doing. They're standing next to each other, more like roommates than couples. Then one of the wives breaks the ice and says, "Oh, look how cute they are." "Oh, just wait. Just wait till you've been married a year." And everyone laughed. I suddenly felt self-conscious and nervously shifted the conversation to something else. Side note, this wasn't the first time this happened. It had actually happened multiple times over the course of a few months. I was lying in bed later that night trying to get to sleep, and my mind was racing. Replaying all the occasions, I began to wonder, were they right? Did they know something we didn't? Then suddenly I imagined this big, furry, scary monster in my imagination showing up at some unknown future date to snatch all the love and bliss right out of our relationship. And there was nothing we could do about it. My mind was spinning. Do I get out now? Maybe I'm not equipped to have a long-standing, happy relationship. After all, I had already failed. And there was plenty of evidence, if I looked around, that everything they were projecting would likely happen to us too. I knew plenty of couples that started out so happy and later were sleeping in separate rooms. I felt completely powerless. Then a different thought emerged, followed by a train of new thoughts. I can't remember if it happened that night or later in my journal. What if the bliss monster didn't exist? What if it was up to us to keep the love and magic alive in our relationship? And what if we could do something different? A weight began to lift. I suddenly felt inspired again, excited for what was possible in this future we had ahead of us. I knew there was something to this, and I wanted to follow these new thoughts. Time and time again, I would have to be diligent to pivot my thinking. And as I did, the new thoughts got stronger and stronger. This would be my mission, to create something different. It was as if I had just uncovered a long-lost secret. While I once subscribed to the marriage fairy tale that I'd fall in love and ride happily off into the sunset on a carriage forever and ever, I had discovered a new option. I now subscribe to the idea of a created marriage where you fall in love and you do everything you can to ensure that you're cultivating a space where you can fall in love again and again. Little did I know that this moment would change the course of my marriage and my life. This story became a catalyst for creating more meaning, purpose, direction, and fulfillment in all areas of my life. And I've been integrating this deeply into my own life for the past 20 years. And 10 years ago, it became my life's work to ignite possibility for others and to empower and equip people to make true, lasting change in all domains of their life. Today, I want to take you into 3 core pieces that were key in shifting from living at the mercy of my circumstances and what others thought or perceived, feeling powerless to what was happening around me, to tapping into something inside that was far more equipped to lead and create a different path and outcome. And I want this for you too. So today's going to require a little bit of reflection. If you're in a place where you can pull out a notebook and a pen, you might want to do so. Otherwise, if you're driving or walking, just let this be thought-provoking, and later you can write down some notes if you wish to. So I want you to choose an area of your life. And if you were just to reflect for a moment Ask yourself, what area of your life could you focus on that would have the most significant impact or that could make a really powerful shift for you? It might be in business or work, or maybe it's in your personal life. Trust yourself, and the idea that comes to mind is likely the perfect one. Resist the urge to overthink it. And the first step is just to get out a flashlight and really examine your thinking. You've probably heard me say that while there are many things that we can't control, there's one thing that we can always control, but often haven't been given the tools to do, is your thinking. It has a huge impact on your well-being, the quality of your experience in every moment, and ultimately your life. There's a quote by Mark Twain that says, "I lived a long life and had many troubles, most of which never happened." That's the power of our thinking. So let's go back to the scene in my story where my thinking was getting the best of me as I lay in bed spinning in my thoughts. What happened later was a lot of writing all of that out so I could really see how those thoughts were impacting me. And as I got more and more clear about all the negativity and the impact it was having on my relationship is when something else emerged. In my thinking, I was in complete doubt. It was causing me to think things like, what if they were right? I don't have what it takes. I better get out now. It will happen to us too. We are doomed. All of that, you can imagine, was having a huge impact on how I was showing up to the relationship. So when you carry around that kind of thinking, it starts to impact your behaviors and actions. And so it would cause me to pull away from the relationship or surrender to the idea and become resigned that this is just as good as it gets, that this is the peak and it's downhill from here, and on and on and on. So take a moment in this area of focus for you. What is the internal dialogue? What are the thoughts that are playing over and over and over again in your head? And think them through, and when you can, write them down. What are the thoughts that are weighing you down and impacting your behavior around this circumstance or situation in your life? The second step is to tune in and move closer and get curious about what's stirring in your mind. When I work with clients, they often feel cloudy, unsure, uncertain, or overwhelmed by their thoughts. So did I. Ultimately, I learned to not believe everything I think. I have a belief that when I work with clients that they're the expert on their life. I'm the expert on helping them clear all the crap that's in the way of them leading really powerfully and truthfully and authentically. Your thoughts are not you. They are just thoughts. What if you allowed what you don't want to inform what you do want? This is where negative thinking can actually help point you in the direction that you truly want to go. And if we go back to the scene in my story, as I became more aware through writing and reflecting all the negative thinking that was happening in my head of what I didn't want our love story to end up how I saw it happening to many others. I didn't want to feel powerless and like I had no control. I didn't want to surrender to this idea that this is as good as it gets. And I realized from the contrast that I wanted something different. I wanted to have say in how things could go. I wanted to believe that it would get better. And I wanted to put a stake in the ground and do everything I could to influence the potential for that. So how about you? Go back to the thoughts that are weighing you down. What thoughts have been trying to get your attention? Is there contrast here that can be perfect for pointing you in the direction of what you do want? Other questions you might ask yourself is, what if? What am I not seeing? What's bigger than this? What does my heart say? Sink deeper, listen closely, and begin to invent and try on new questions that give you mobility and possibility into this area of your life. And this is the whole idea of really hiring new ways of thinking that create movement and mobility into your life. maybe up until now, your thoughts have been running the show and kind of bossing you around. And this is where you can make a profound shift, is one, just becoming aware of the thoughts, trading them up and trying on new ones that give you mobility, and turning some of your doubt into new questions, like I did in my story. So with that in mind, you should have a list of new questions you can begin to ask yourself and really breathe new life into these areas where you feel stuck in your life. And the next step is to take a stand and really start to align your actions. If we go back to my story, my new stand was this idea of a created marriage. And what if it's really about us doing everything we can possibly do to cultivate a marriage and cultivate a place where we could fall in love again and again and again? That was my stand. And from that moment, I started aligning my actions to that, not perfectly, but with consistency. And so once you have an idea of that new possibility or that new stand, start to ask yourself, what actions can I take? What small actions can I take? What small steps can I begin that align with this vision? And this, my friends, is going to start putting your attention, your energy, and your actions in alignment with what you truly want for your life. So to recap, as I mentioned, this story was a catalyst for really creating change in all domains of my life. And it became somewhat of a blueprint that I follow. And here's the blueprint. 1, examine the friction in your thinking. Number 2, let that friction inform what you do want. Number 3, tune in and turn up the part of you that sees something more, something better, something new possible. Number 4, fire old ways of thinking and hire new ones that give you mobility. Number 5, create a new vision and align your actions. And the last one is just repeat, because you can take this and apply it to any area of your life that you want to experience a profound change. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Differently. I hope it stirred your thinking, and I invite you to take one inspired action from something that stood out to you. If you want to hear more conversations like this, hit follow on your favorite podcast app. And if this episode could impact someone you know, please pass it along. Remember, new episodes drop weekly. See you next week.